Hi guys, it's Mary. Welcome back. Today we're going to go through this. There's 3 brushes I don't have. And one is because I can never get my hands on it. This particular brush with me, it's like a quest at this point. It's like, hello, because I don't have it, I've got to have it. Because I can never get it, I got to get it. It's the number 58. The other 2 brushes I don't have are a choice. Okay, so that would be the B12 bent liner. I've never been good with that particular kind of brush. I've had one of those before and I don't use liner on my lid very much, and that is what it's for. The other brush I don't have is the E80, and that's like a brow spoolie. So I have enough brow spoolies on the end of the mini brow pencils that I have. Brushes that we're not going to talk about are brushes that Sigma no longer makes anymore, like these. These brushes here are the soft blends. They're not going to be shown as close-ups either. Basically, the soft blends are a set of the same brush in various sizes. We're not going to talk about brushes that exist only in sets, like this one here. This is the Blush Rose Gold F92. This brush cannot be purchased on its own. I love this brush, but you have to purchase a set to get this. So Sigma has a deluxe set up there, and included in that are max versions. It's nice, it's really nice. But because one of the main reasons I want to make this video is so that you can see the difference in different brushes side by side, I want to speak about the max versions. So for example, this is your standard E40, and this is the Sigma E40 Max. Look at the 2 of them together. This one here is the Max version. It's fluffier. It disperses more. I did my eye look today using this to blow out my crease. Before I show you all these eye brushes, I want to tell you that maybe some of the brushes in here aren't actually eye brushes. Some of my face brushes, blush brushes, however I've got them grouped. Because I'm going to tell you a little secret. Just because somebody says a brush is an eye brush doesn't necessarily mean you have to use it that way. You can use face brushes on your eyes and eye brushes on your face. But as we move through these bundles of different kinds of brushes, I'm just telling you what it's called and putting it in a group that makes sense for how I use them. All Sigma brushes have the highest quality exclusive synthetic antimicrobial fibers that are engineered to better hold, apply, and blend products. The ferrules on a Sigma brush have unmatched strength, are durable and corrosion resistant because of their patented Sigma alloy technology. They're double threaded and use patent exclusive interlocking technology that's not glue. And the handles, these are a solid polymer on here, so they're not wood. Because the bristles are in the ferrule with a locking system on here, a double threaded one, because this is not wood, that's why Sigma is able to say, we're going to give you a 2-year warranty on every brush. E27, E25, E25 Max. The difference between the E25 and the E25 Max is it's taller on the bristles. That gives them a little more splay than the E25 or the E27. And the E25 is part of the Glitzy Fritzy Essential Eye Set. But if you don't have my brush set with Sigma, these are the blending brushes that are in the set and their comparison. This is the E36, which is really pulled down here at the base and allows you, if you need to pinch this down really easy and come under your eyes. It's real floppy here at the top, but it allows you to get into really tiny spaces. Over here, I like to use it on the outer corner and through the crease. The E25, the E35, and these are the brown bristle brushes of the eye brushes, all next to each other. We're going to take this one here and pull it aside because there's another brush in their lineup coming up I want you to see compared to it. But this is actually really, really good for precisely placing right here. It's just going to stay right there. It's not going to move at all. Right there in the crease is what this is for. But I have used it a lot to do contouring on my nose. The E42 and the E34. I can see how these two you might want to see a little closer. You can see that there is splay on these bristles. Let me get that over my face so that you can see them. Whereas this, they're pretty stiff. So even though they look similar size, they're not the same brush at all. Likewise, you might want to see the E42 next to the E44. This is the E42 Precision Firm Blender, and this one is the E44 Firm Blender. E33, E38, E45. As you can see, the E45 is more tapered. I think this brush is really nice, like this one, to get right out here and work. It's bigger and doesn't have as much splay as the E36. So if you have smaller eyes, hooded eyes, I would suggest this one. The 33 and the 38 right next to each other. Obviously the 38 has a lot more splay to it than this one does, but this is really good for smaller eyes. And the 38 is the brush that comes in all their palettes. On one end is a blending brush and the other a shader. It's this brush here, the E38. And the reason they do that, I'm sure, is because if you're somebody like me that has more crease space than somebody with really hooded eyes, this will still work. But if you're somebody who has really hooded eyes and you use something like this is the E40, this may not work for you. A lot of people love this brush. It was my first brush from Sigma. Brushes like this really sheer out and diffuse eyeshadow. This one here is an E35. As you can tell, next to each other, one of them is like spread out a lot more up here at the top. It gives more splay. This is more dense than this one, so the color would likewise be more dense than it would if we went on with this one. You can see how that diffuses this color. Now I'm going to take it with the E35, same thing, and you can see that it's a lot more concentrated and not as diffused. That's why there's so many different kinds of blending brushes. Depending on what you're after, depends on what kind of brush you want. Do you want an E40 that does this, or do you want an E35 that does this? Shader brushes are brushes that usually get used right here on the lid of the eye, and they're all short bristled and flat. They vary in their length of the bristles and the denseness of the bristles. Here are the bigger ones next to each other. This one here is the biggest one of all, and I use this brush, believe it or not, if I'm just doing a one eyeshadow look. If I just want to take, say, I don't know, Wet n Wild Brulee and come over my lid or use powder to set my lid, I will use this brush. Why? Look at it. Because it will get it in one swoop. The next biggest one would be the large shader, the E60. So compare these two. Butt it against my palm, you can see that this one is a lot shorter and has a fatter handle on it. The bristles of this one have a lot more give, and they are longer and come to a point. The E55 is the brush that I use the most often. I probably have 6 of these. You see me use this all the time to put my eyeshadow on my lid. But if you have smaller lids than me, then this brush may be more to your liking, or some of the ones I'm also getting ready to show you next to each other. Note that the E54 is thinner and longer than this one. The E54, for the same reason as I told you, I think, for the crease brush, this is why this is the other end of Sigma's dual-ended brushes that comes in their palettes, because I can still use this brush. But somebody who has a smaller, tighter space than me may not be able to pull off a shader this big. So this is a good, in general, for the mass populations, is the E54. So here those are all next to each other. Here's all the liner brushes right here. And more than any brush I get, this is the one where I have bought it and it gets here and I go, oh, that's not how big I thought that was. This one here is the E46 and it's included in the Glitzy Fritzy Essential Eye Set. It's an inner corner shader. As you can see, it would do a very good job for that. It's kind of stiff and you can do detail work with this. This is a perfect example of a brush that was meant to do a specific thing but can do a lot of other things. So it's specifically meant to drag highlighter in the inner corner or eyeshadow in the inner corner and works very well for that. But you could use this as a liner brush underneath here, whatever. If you've ever wondered about the difference between the eyeliner 04 and the E46, there you go. This one, of course, is the eyeliner brush. It's bulkier, but comes to a tip. So this would be really good if you wanted to start in someplace with just a little liner, but get bigger on your way out. The eyeliner 04, that'll get it for you. That one is the E11, this tiny little brush. This is really good with gel liner right in the tight line and the waterline. That's what I use that brush for. This is the E06. It's the winged liner. Look how tiny that is. Take a look at those two next to each other. Those are really tiny. But you see, before I got this, I ordered this. The bigger one is the E65. So you can see that if you just see the E65 online without a comparison, you might think that you're getting this one instead. And that's what happened. That's how I got both of these. I don't even use this brush very often because if I'm going to use a winged liner, I want one really tiny like this. This is the comparison between the little winged liner brush and the tight line brush. And I feel like I should explain this one. This is for mascara, but the reason it's in liners for me is because I will take and run it through a cake of shadow and then just bring it underneath here. That's how I use this. I never use this for mascara. You could also use that to highlight your brow bone. I want to show you so that you can understand how big the E79 is. See, look at this. This is big. But imagine, if you will, that you have a concealer like Tarte Shape Tape. This would make quick work of that concealer, wouldn't it? This is the rest of them next to each other. For me and my taste, I typically like the precision brushes to do that, except for this one right here. This one here is the E69, and I love this thing right here. Look how this just fits right in there, right in that space. It's perfect for right under here, right in the inner corner. I love this brush here, the 69, and it does have some denseness to it, but it is slanted. The rest of these I think are just like regular concealers. And before we move on, in case anyone is like me and wonders about this brush in comparison to this brush, here they are. So first of all, there's the height difference. This one here is the E48, and it is a pointed crease brush. This could be too. This is the Detail Concealer 71. Here they are next to each other. One of them is quite a bit smaller. And by the way, this one does a really good job with concealer on blemishes. So Which one, you may ask, is my very favorite? I think I've told you before. It's this one. It's the multitasker. Look at that. Short bristles to long bristles. It's got this funky angle on it that makes it perfect for this. But what I really love about it is there's something about these bristles that let it absorb cream, powder, bronzer, cheek. You can do everything with the same brush and it turns out fine. For what I mean by that is I can take this brush and I can put on my foundation. Even though there's liquid foundation in there, I can go right into powder then and use powder bronzer, blush, go into my setting powder if I want to. Two others to compare that to would be the Bake Kabuki and the Edge. Even though it's a triangle, it's still that same thing where you got the short bristles in the front and they go to longer, and you can do this motion with it. Here's the two duo fiber brushes, air brushes, if you will, next to each other, compared in size. The iconic F80. This was the first one, this Kabuki, this F80. This is the F80 dual fiber air compared to the F80. So if this brush is a little too dense for you, try this one. This one here is really nice too, but that's them next to each other. Here's the F80 compared to the F82 round Kabuki. And this is the F82 compared to the airbrush Kabuki F85. They're both round Kabukis, but as you can see, this one has longer bristles and is a little bit more fluffy than this more dense F82. And then this is the domed buffer next to those. Before we get into the funky kind of Kabuki brushes, let's talk about this one here is what you would think of as the traditional foundation brush. Using one of these to try and put on foundation is what caused Sigma's co-owner, Simone, to invent this brush. I use these things to put masks on or to paint on foundation that I'm going to take a brush and blend out. I don't ever use this to try and put on foundation. It would just be a streaky mess. So now we got the funky Kabukis. Of these, my favorites are this one, for sure. This one here is the 3D HD Max. The 3D HD and the 3D HD Max. I love this thing because it covers a big area. Okay. All at once. I can like do my foundation on one side, flop it over and get some contour or whatever, and you know, then this brush, if you're in a hurry, this brush will get her done. This one here is the F83. You can see it's not like any of the others. It can't be confused because it's got that chiseled out thing to hug your cheek with. These here are so popular that they have corresponding precision brushes, little versions of these for precision. I don't think that these can be confused with each other, but I wanted to show you next to each other 40 HD, and this one is the 3D HD. This is the Cake Kabuki and the Edge Kabuki. The precision brushes for me, that's pretty much why I don't use concealer brushes, is because of these. My favorite one is this one, the 40 HD. I have 3 of them because I don't like for them to be dirty. It gets right in the corner. I've got 4 sides, so I can use it here. I can come turn it and come here. I can use it here. I love this brush. But if you don't like that shape, here are the others. These two here are the ones that I think you can confuse. Can you see that? That one has more of a slant than the other. So this one here is the 88, and this one here is the 89. This is the Cake Precision brush. Goes with the Cake foundation brush. Let's look at the size of these. This is Sigma's powder brush, and this is a lovely, very soft powder brush. Sigma makes it a mission to take on goat hair brushes. I mean, they strive to make their brushes as soft as goat hair brushes, but we're not going to get into that argument here, but you know, I'm just saying that these are very, very soft. But if I'm gonna put on powder, it's usually this. Can you see how floppy that is? Because if I'm using a brush for powder, I need it to be real floppy. And this is. Now, I would use this, personally, more to buff my blush, my contour, my powder all together. It's not, as you can see, it's pretty floppy, so it could be used as a setting brush. But look at them next to each other. And here's this in the palm of my hand. There's this one in the palm of my hand. Just depends on your preference. This is what I love about this, though. This is my favorite powder brush for face powder that Sigma makes, is this one here, the Tapered Face F25. The E37 next to the E25, as you can see, this is not as pointed. This also does a really good job of dispersing powder, but you know, compared to the E25, I just think the E25 is a better brush. A duo fiber brush is always good for people who are heavy-handed. You can get the lightest application, a sheer wash of blush, bronzer, powder, whatever, with a duo fiber stippling kind of brush. So there you go. Some of them are actual blush brushes, and others I just like doing that with. So you can see that we have three right off the top that are these duo fiber kind of brushes. And this one here is the Contour Blush F53 next to the F15 and the stippling, small stippling brush. So that's how they compare in size. This one's a lot bigger. These three. This obviously is more of a paddle type brush. In fact, I think a lot of people would use this for foundation. I like this kind of a brush with some blushes. Let's compare these two. This is the F10 and this is the F36. And this brush here I've got grouped with the powder brushes, but I wanted to show it to you next to the E36, so that you can see the difference between the E36 and the E37. As you can see, the E36 is more of a fuller brush than the E37. They're similar, but not the same. I like this one for powder because I think it's got more give to it than this. Can you tell which ones are specifically, I think, for contour or what ones I use specifically for contour? That would be all the ones kind of like this. This is definitely a contour kind of brush. All right, so if you want to contour your nose and get that straight edge line, this one here is the F61. That one also really isn't compared to anything else. This for so long is the contour brush that you would see in the early days of YouTube. This size of a head, people using this to contour the hollows of their cheeks or whatnot, their jawline. So this is quite a bit smaller than this one, of course. This one, if you like a more angled brush, does a good job with bronzing or contouring, either one. But this one here, this is the one that I typically use when I'm using a powder bronzer to buff. So there's those all next to each other. This is a pretty big boy, right? And these only get used for contouring. This is different than all the others in that it has splay to it. See? So this is a really nice cheek sweep. Contour or bronzer, either one. In fact, this does a really good job of marrying everything on your cheek and blending it all together seamlessly. I personally, for my face, don't like that look of here's a stripe of contour, here's my blush, my highlight. I like to marry all those products together on my cheek, and this kind of a brush does a really good job of that, and it's oh so soft. These hug your face. As you can see, this one here is the same type of deal as this one, it's just smaller. So the smaller one is the 56 and this is the 57. This one here doesn't have a contour on it, but it's kind of dense. So it makes really fast, quick, precise work of around the nose. This is the Chisel and Trim brush. Love it. These two here I don't use so much. I also have a Sephora one that has a longer handle on it, but when I'm doing this, I prefer these short handles. These, as you can see, because of the way it is, see how that just hugs my cheek? So if you take this into contour and you come up here, okay, it makes that easy work of contouring your cheek. This one here is the tapered highlighter next to the soft blend concealer brush that I tend to use for highlight. So that's the difference in the sizes of them. And as you can see, this one is tapered, this one's not. This one here is the powder sweep, and that is it in comparison to their cheek, the high cheekbone highlighter brush. And then of course this is the fan brush. As you can see, it's a little one. Here's another fan brush so that you can compare sizes. This one's really hard to get out of control with. It's really light, small, easy to drag highlight onto your face with. If I'm using a lip brush, then I want to reapply with a lip brush. So this is the one I actually prefer. It has a little metal case, and there you go. It's this lip brush, all right? So you can get your lips done up with it and then pop it back in this case, throw it in your purse, and take it with you. These two here, they do a really good job. But like I said, if I'm applying a lipstick with a brush, then when I leave, I want to do it the same way with touch up, and these are too long handled. I cannot take these. You can also use these little lip brushes as detail eye brushes. I would appreciate a thumbs up on your way out. That would make my day. If you aren't having a blessed day, then the way you can get one is to be a blessing to somebody else. And until next time, love you, see ya, bye, and I'm out.
Hello, brushes, my old friends. It's good to play with you again. I've been away from you for way too long, and that's why I am breaking into song. 'Cause you're back, and I've needed to use you. Oh, it's true. It is the day of Sigma. And I was just telling my son, I'm sorry, but when you have a softie in your hand, you gotta play with it. Oh my gosh, this fan brush is so big that I can actually really use it as a fan. Look at my hair. Yeah. This one here is the E33, the E38. It's a 38 special. Shader brushes are the kind of brushes that people usually use on the lids of their eyelids. Really, Mary? Right in besides your nose. Besides. Look how this just fits in here besides your nose. Your bronzer, your bronzer and your brush. Put under in a bush. Put the sailor man. These bad boys here are just kind of stiff. Stiff bristles, not floppy.